Today, I want to talk to you about a very important topic. That is the company law that the Chinese government is revising. If passed, will be to Chinese enterprises and ordinary people. Have a huge impact. How big is this effect? I can tell you. According to my estimate, if this act is implemented, 70% of enterprises in China will go bankrupt. And he filed for bankruptcy on his own initiative. This is not alarmist. This is backed by data. So today we are going to solve two problems. First, why did I say that 70% of companies will go bankrupt? Second, why did the Chinese government revise this bill? Today we are accumulating wealth and chatting with you. First of all, we need to understand the company law, background and content of the revised draft. China's company law has been implemented since 1993. It's been 30 years now. During this period, several reforms. One of the most important reforms was in 2013. At that time, China abolished the actual payment system and changed it to a subscription system. What is real payment system? That is to say, you want to register a company. You must put your claimed registered capital. Deposit it all in the bank. Can't use. For example, you say your registered capital is 1 million. You have to have 1 million in the account. If you misuse or take away, if found out, there will be a lawsuit. So under the real payment system, registering a company is difficult. Because you have to have enough money. And in China, many industries and projects, a certain amount of registered capital is required to compete or get a contract. So under Stonehorn, registered capital becomes a kind of threshold and stepping stone. But after 2013, China abolished the actual payment system and changed it to a subscription system. What is subscription system? That is to say, you register a company. You can say whatever you want about your registered capital. How much is it? Such as 5 million or 100 million. But you don't have to actually put the money in the bank. You just promise that within a certain period of time in the future. For example, just hand over the money in 30 years. And if you deregister the company before the deadline, then you don't have to pay. So under the subscription system, registering a company has become very easy and cheap. Because you don't really have that much money. And you can also use your registered capital to brag or lie. Make others feel that your company is very powerful. So under the subscription system, the number of companies in China has increased significantly. According to Chinese official data, October 2022, there are more than 51 million business entities nationwide. And before 2013, only over 13 million. This is the effect of the subscription system. So isn't the subscription system good? Some people may feel this will promote China's marketization and economic development. Let more people have the opportunity to start a business and innovate. But this idea is wrong. Because the subscription system is actually a pseudo-marketization. It doesn't really solve the problems faced by Chinese companies. Instead, it masks the problem. What's the problem? It's a credit problem. A normal market economy, cooperation and competition among firms must be based on credit. You need to convince others that you can keep your promises. Able to deliver on time. Able to pay off debts, able to take risks. Credit is not guaranteed by registered capital, but by a well-established legal system and credit rating system to ensure. Like in the US, a business to register, No registered capital required at all. Just fill in some basic information. But if a business want to do business or borrow money from others, must have a credit rating. This rating is made by a professional agency based on the financial statements and operating conditions are given. The higher the credit rating, the more reliable the company is. Easier to gain the trust and support of others. On the contrary, the lower the credit rating, the less reliable the business is. Difficulty gaining the trust and support of others. So registered capital in the US is not important. What matters is the credit rating. But in China does not have a complete legal system and credit rating system. China's legal system is controlled by the party, not controlled by the market. Chinese courts are not independent and impartial. It was directed and intervened by the party. Chinese law does not protect private property rights and contractual rights. It is subject to the interests and will of the party. So there is no legal protection between Chinese companies. Can only rely on relationships and rights to solve problems. And China's credit rating system. It is also dominated and controlled by the government. Not dominated and supervised by the market. China's credit rating agencies are all controlled and influenced by the government. Don't dare to take the credit risk of the government and state-owned enterprises. Make honest assessments and disclosures. Instead, give them high marks or default. China's credit rating. Nor does it reflect the true status and capabilities of the enterprise, but by political and economic interference and manipulation. So credit ratings are not credible in China. Only as a form and decoration. So there is no credit guarantee between Chinese companies. Can only rely on registered capital to make a superficial. So the subscription system is actually a pseudo-marketization. It doesn't really solve the problems faced by Chinese companies. Instead, it masks the problem. And the recognition of horniness also brings a lot of new problems. Such as subscription. Allow many people without capital and ability to register a company. This increases the ineffective supply in the market and vicious competition. These companies often do not have core competencies. Can only rely on low prices or fraud to compete for market share. This leads to a decrease in quality in the market and price war. For companies with quality and innovation is an unfair oppression. And these companies have no sense of credit. Tend to default on debt or run away. For partners and creditors is a huge risk. So the subscription system is actually a market failure. It makes the market chaotic and inefficient. So since the subscription system has so many problems, so why does the Chinese government implement? This leads to the second question we are going to talk about today. Why did the Chinese government revise this bill? According to the latest amendments to the company law, the Chinese government intends to abolish the subscription system and restore the actual payment system. This means all companies must be within 5 years. Own registered capital. Deposit it all in the bank. Can't use. If you fail to do so, you will be forced to cancel or be fined. This change looks big. But actually it's a step backwards. It is the process of marketization in China. Pulled back from 2013 to 2005. Even earlier. He is the Chinese enterprise. From a relatively free and active environment. Pulled back into a strict and depressing environment. He is the Chinese people. From a life of relative affluence and hope. Pulled back to a life of poverty and hopelessness. So why is the Chinese government doing this? Don't they know? How much damage will this cause? Don't they care about China's economy and social development? Actually, they know they care too. But they care more about their rights and benefits. The real purpose of their implementation of this bill. What is it then? Is to control Chinese companies. To rob China's wealth. To maintain China's stability. Let's analyze them one by one. First, they want to control Chinese companies. The Chinese government has always wanted to control Chinese companies. Because they feel that business is the lifeblood of the economy. Also a political threat. They don't want any business able to go beyond their control. Able to challenge their authority. Able to influence their decisions. So they've been on business. Various forms of regulation and intervention. For example, tax review, investigation, fines, mergers and acquisitions, etc. They especially dislike innovative and competitive private companies. Businesses, because these businesses often have their own thoughts and ideas. Unwilling to obey the command and arrangement of the government. There may even be conflict and confrontation with the government. So they want to suppress these companies. Prevent them from surviving and developing. Restoring the actual payment system is a means of suppressing. It allows many private. The enterprise cannot afford the registered capital requirement. Forced to close or transfer. Thus, the Chinese government can weaken the power of private enterprises. Strengthen the advantages of state-owned enterprises and pro-government enterprises. Thereby strengthening the control over the entire market. Secondly, they want to rob China's wealth. The Chinese government has always wanted to rob China's wealth. Because they feel that wealth is the source of power. Also problem solving. They don't want any one person or group of people able to own more wealth than their, able to enjoy a better life than their, able to make higher demands than they. So they've been looking at wealth. Various forms of deprivation and diversion. Such as inflation, depreciation, tax increases, purchase restrictions, etc. They especially dislike those who have people with the ability to create and accumulate wealth. Because these people often have their own needs and expectations. Unwillingness to endure government oppression and exploitation. It is even possible to fight and rebel against the government. So they want to take away the wealth of these common people. Make it impossible for them to maintain and improve own standard of living. Restoring the decagonal system is a means of taking away. It can make many people lose the wealth you have worked so hard to create and accumulate. Because under the real payment system, they had to put their money in the bank. Cannot be used for investment or consumption. And once the money is deposited in the bank, will be taken away by the government or devalued. Taken away by the government. Because of the government can invoke or embezzling the money. For example, issuing treasury bonds and lending to state-owned enterprises. Support infrastructure projects, etc. The money is often not put to good use. Instead, it is used where waste and corruption. Devalued because the government can print banknotes and adjust the exchange rate to reduce the value of this money. Let people save less and less. More and more worthless. So restoring the real payment system is actually a kind of plunder. It allows the government to transfer the wealth of ordinary people. Become your own wealth. In the end, they want to maintain the stability of China. The Chinese government has always wanted to maintain stability in China. Because they feel that stability is in their fundamental interest. Is their highest goal. They don't want any factor could threaten their dominance. can cause social upheaval and change, able to arouse people's dissatisfaction and resistance. So they've been right. Various forms of control and repression by society, such as propaganda, education, monitoring, suppression, prohibition, etc. They especially dislike those who have ideas and ideals of the people, because these people often have their own judgment and choice, unwilling to obey blindly government orders and arrangements. There may even be conflicts and confrontations with the government. So they want to destroy these people, preventing them from expressing and disseminating their views and demands. Restoring the actual payment system is a means of eliminating. It can make many people lose their voice and power, because under the real payment system, they had to give up their entrepreneurship and innovation. Can't use your talent and wisdom to change your destiny. And under the real payment system, they also lost their wealth and rights, cannot use own resources and influence to change the status quo of society. Therefore, the restoration of the actual payment system is actually a kind of silence. It makes the people slaves and vassals of the government. This is the Chinese government. The real purpose of implementing this bill: control company, steal wealth and maintain stability. Isn't this purpose terrible? This purpose, is it in line with the interests and aspirations of the Chinese people? Run counter to it. This purpose, will it push China into the abyss and destroy it? I think everyone has their own answer. Alright, let's stop here for today's lesson. If you like my video, please like, share, comment and subscribe. And turn on the little bell. This is Wealth Accumulation Channel. See you later.